What's going on, y'all? Thanks for checking in the Khaliis Take. You know what to do. Hit that like, subscribe button. Also hit that notification bell just so you can get the newest and the bonus content first. But hey, let's just go ahead and jump right in. If I tell you the Clippers are the strangest average team in the NBA, you probably be like, what in the world? But hear me out. They really are. Because this team gives you fight, this team gives you resiliency, this team gives you edge, this team makes you shake your head, this team wows you, and this team does some unbelievable things, whether they have superstars on the roster, on the floor, or not. And if you bottle all that up, what I just said, they've got to be the strangest average team you've ever seen. What average team have you seen go out there and beat the Brooklyn Nets with James Harden and Kevin Durant scoring over 30 points, coming back from a 35-point lead against the Washington Wizards, then coming back from a 24-point lead, I think, against the 76ers, then a 25-point lead against the Denver Nuggets with the reigning MVP on there. Not every team could say they've done that with their superstars on the floor, let alone average players. And this is the reason why I say they're the strangest team I think I've ever seen in the NBA. Now, with that being said, the national power rankings have them at 17th amongst all teams in the NBA. Just a couple weeks ago, they were 19th in regards to the power rankings. It's almost like they're ascending and moving up while they're winning a couple games, losing a couple games, playing Jekyll and Hyde basketball. But the wins that they've had has definitely had to make people shake their head and be like, how can they do this on certain nights and then other nights they don't against lower competition? I mean, it's just the fact of understanding a situation and trying to figure out how is it even possible, and you can't. And that's the strangest thing with the Clippers. You can't figure out how they're doing what they're doing or even staying afloat. The fact that they're actually in the 7th or 8th seed is unreal for most people, because the way their roster is built right now, you would think by looking at their roster up and down, they would be a 10th seed or 11th seed, you know what I'm saying, in the standings. But they're above that, and they're actually still playing very, decent. And 500 basketball for this roster and what you see is probably more than enough, or it's probably more than what's expected of this team based upon the roster and the players they have going out there on the floor. A lot of people look at the Clippers as misfits and underdogs and all those type of things, but at the same time, they can be that if that's what you want them to be in your mind, if that's what you think of them as. But on the floor when they play, there's some nights they do play like they're misfits and they're rejects or things like that. But there are a lot of other nights where they play like they're a team that's building chemistry towards something really, really special. Now, the reason why I use the word special is because they still got Kawhi Leonard and PG on the roster. And it's only depending on whether both of them come back, how far they go, but they still have them on the roster currently, which still makes them a threat to a lot of people and a lot of people's eyes, especially NBA teams, because NBA teams know they're pretty tough with their core and role players. Imagine if they got Kawhi and PG back with the team that they have, they would build a nucleus that a lot of teams couldn't contend with. Now, we do know there's trades up in the air. There's a lot of things going around, a lot of words going around about trading. And, I'm not going to lie. I'm not a big fan of it because some of the names that I'm hearing, I'm just not a big fan of it. As I said before, one of the names or some of the core players that I feel like that should be there, I feel like Luke Kennard should be there. I feel like he shouldn't get traded. I feel like Nicholas Batum shouldn't get traded. You see what I'm saying? It's certain players like that I look at on this team where they need to keep those players. Now, one name that's surfacing out there a lot from what I see is Nicholas Batum. And I'm going to say this once again. If the Clippers trade Nicholas Batum and don't get somebody back better than what he is, which I don't see too many players out there on the market that are really particularly more valuable to a team than what he can be and what he has been to the Clippers, they're not going to win a championship unless Kawhi comes back, PG comes back, and they ramp it up to where they're playing like basketball gods. Kawhi turns in Toronto turns into Toronto Kawhi Leonard, and Paul George turns into the Indiana Pacers Paul George. That would be the only way, because trading away certain players like that, you're not bettering your chances of winning. And I understand where the Clippers are going. They know they're in a strange situation. They know they're an average team. They know they can beat a lot of teams just because they have the fighter's mentality, just as they done. They know they're higher in the power rankings than what they probably thought they would be based upon the roster that they have on the floor. But at the same time, they can't make any mistakes by trading away certain players that's not going to give them a chance to at least stay playing 500 basketball or better. Like I said, to me, Eric Bledsoe, players like that, Marcus Morris, if you want to trade those type players, I'm all for it. But Nicholas Batum, they better find a way to keep him, which is just a little side note. But back to the original topic, this team right here has been very strange, very, very strange. And the thing with me with this team is I definitely think they could do a lot of good things, but I just definitely feel like they have to find a way to be consistent doing it. Because even some of the teams they've came back and won some of the most craziest games, they've overcome some of the biggest deficits this year. They still had some of the most questionable losses as well. I mean, even they had some questionable losses when Paul George was playing, one of their superstars. So, I mean, it's hard to really put a finger on this team and figure out what their direction is or how they're going to play consistently going forward, because it just doesn't seem like there's much consistency there to be looked at in regards to, how they're going to play every single night. Because some nights you look at them, they'll play a team like the Milwaukee Bucks, hypothetically. They'll play a team like the Milwaukee Bucks and beat them by 3-4 points and come back down from 10 points and beat a team like that. But then the next night they'll play a team like the Orlando Magic or, a team like the Pelicans and lose by 10 points. It's unreal what you're seeing with this team, and it's really hard to put a finger on them. But, the power rankings, of the NBA, they have to call it how they see it. Some of the wins this team has had this year and how they have won has really propelled them to be a weird average team that nobody really wants to face. Because when you play the Clippers, you're going to get that fighter's mentality. But you can beat them because they don't have the superstars or the roster to beat your team, because your team is healthy and theirs isn't. But in the same breath, you can't get comfortable against them, because if they can erase a 35-point deficit, well, there's nothing no team can do to scare them. There's nothing no team can do on the floor that can say, well, we're comfortable. We got a 30 plus point lead. We're comfortable. We're going to win this game. You can never get comfortable with a team like the Clippers, because they find ways to come back and be resilient, unlike any other team in the NBA, or maybe even in NBA history. I'm not sure, how this team does that. I'm not sure why they're not consistent at doing it. I mean, I don't want them to be consistent at coming back from 35, 25 point leads. I would like to see them build a 25, 35 point lead, because to me, if you have the capability of coming back from down 35 points, to me, you have the capability of building a 35 point lead. That's just the way I've always looked at it. That's the way I've always viewed basketball. What you're able to overcome, you are able to succeed it as well. If you're down 25 points and you're able to come back from that and actually complete a victory, which is very, very hard. I've seen many teams be down 20 plus points and come back and tie a game, but still lose it because they don't have the energy to finish it, because they ran out of gas just trying to stay afloat in the game, to where once it came down to the waning parts of the moment of the fourth quarter where the game is about to end, they can't muster up enough energy to follow it through. But the Clippers seem to follow it through and make the comeback and get the victory. And some of these victories they had, it didn't even take overtime for them to do it. They actually won it in regulation, some of these games. So this is my point. If they're able to come back from a 25-point lead, they're definitely talented enough to build a 25-point lead. And in saying that, if they were able to do that, which they're definitely capable of doing it, they wouldn't be such a roller coaster team like they are. They would be able to string together 3, 4, 5 game winning streaks, even without the services of Kawhi and PG. Because even without those players, they've shown how tough they are. And they've shown the NBA, when you play them it is not going to be an easy run. It's not going to be a cakewalk. It's not going to be a walk in the park. You could be up 25 points, but really, it's kind of weird to say this, but when you're up 20 plus points against the Clippers, you really need to be nervous. Because that's when the Clippers play their best, when they're down, when their backs are against the wall. I mean, honestly, they've been like that the last couple of seasons. I mean, they've had games where when their backs are against the wall, they play their best. I mean, honestly, look at the playoffs last year against the Dallas Mavericks. Their back was against the wall. Everybody said they were eliminated. Kawhi Leonard was overrated. PG was overrated. The Clippers were overrated. The Clippers are not that good. And what happened? They come back, storm back in a series like that with Luka Doncic playing at the highest level he's probably ever going to play in his career in that playoffs, and they come back and win. Just as they're doing now with a bunch of nobodies in most people's mind. Now, of course, Kawhi Leonard did have a lot to do with that. You know, his defense on Luka the last couple games and his heroics of shooting like 60% from the field, averaging like 35 points a game was just, I mean, Kawhi is one of the best playoff performers we've ever seen. And I'm giving him the title now. He's the best playoff performer I've ever seen. This dude can go out there and light it up. I mean, during the regular season, Kawhi Leonard gives you a little bit of this, a little bit of that, you know, to kind of keep everybody interested. But in the playoffs, he's the best playoff performer. It's not even close. It's not even close. I mean, of course, you could put LeBron in there, you know, a few other players in there, Kobe, you know, Mike, you know, people like that. But that's the problem. That's the point. You're putting only those type players could be put in that category, and he's in there with them. So that says a lot about who he is and how great of a player he is. Definitely hope he comes back soon because I definitely missed the claw. But even he's probably shaking his head at how resilient this team is without him on the floor and without Paul George on the floor. It's really, really unreal to see how crazy this team can be. They can lose a game by 10 against a team like the Pelicans, but then they could win a game by 5 or 10 points against a team like the Bulls, possibly, and they were down 20 points in the game. It's really, really unreal how they are constructed as a team, and I'm pretty sure even Ty Lue shakes his head at this team sometime, but he definitely believes in them, and he definitely pushes this team to be the best they can be. And, you know, right now, they're doing their very best. And a lot of people don't look at it. They don't acknowledge it. They're not giving this team their flowers or their credit because, you know, they haven't won a championship or anything like that. And I definitely understand that. It's all about winning championships. It's not about just winning regular season games. But for what this team has been able to accomplish or stay afloat so far, I feel like they should get a lot more credit than what they've gotten. And to be ranked 17th is not the best, but I mean, honestly, with the roster that they have, they probably should be ranked number 30 in most people's mind. I mean, let's just keep it real. They should be in most people's mind, but they're ranked higher than that because of some of the statement wins that they've had this season. And it just lets their superstars know, Kawhi and PG, you need to hurry up and try to find a way to come back. Because if you do, we can make something really good happen. But I say that too, only if they don't make any stupid trades at the deadline. They have to make trades that make sense. They have to keep the players that help them drive the engine. They have to keep players that help them drive this team going forward. Kawhi and PG is the engine that is going to keep it going forward. If they get healthy and get back on the court, they're going to help drive the team. But at the same time, the Clippers can't kill the momentum by trading away the wrong players. And that's something that, you know, Clippers Nation has to be kind of weary of because we have to see how it goes in the trade deadline. And like I said, with Nicholas Batum and Luke Kennard, those type names floating around, that's not a good thing because those are the type players that have a lot of, you know, not only versatility, but give the Clippers a lot of support in regards to playing both ends of the floor and being valuable when called upon. And that's just something that the Clippers are going to have to make a decision on. You don't want to give away too much to get very little back and don't better your chances of going to the playoffs. But hey, that's my take on the situation. You leave any comments in the comment section. As always, you let me know what you think. And hey, Gally out.